All right, y'all, welcome to the show. A lot to talk about today. So in just a second, I'm going to reveal for you who won the debate. We have a lot of numbers now in. I think it's time to pound the gavel. So we'll dive into that. We'll also get to the real-time reaction from a lot of young voters. Many of them are very frustrated and pissed off at a guy by the name of J.D. Vance. We'll get to a CNN host interviews Don Jr. after the debate and just casually humiliates him. So I got a lot of enjoyment out of that clip. And then later on, the State Department cartoon supervillain says the quiet part out loud about Israel. Trump slurs his way through an incomprehensible press conference. And Jon Stewart basically unleashed on every single dumb pro-Trump argument, which has been driving me crazy for the past year or so, probably even more than that. And he really just ripped those arguments to shreds. So that's fun. Everybody do me a big favor. Please subscribe to the channel. That helps out massively and costs you absolutely nothing. Thank you to everybody who supports this show on Patreon. We couldn't do it without you. We're not like the Benny Johnsons and the Tim Pools of the world. I don't take any money from shadowy billionaires or foreign governments. It's small dollar donations from you guys and the default ads on YouTube. That's how we fund this show. And again, much love from the bottom of my heart. If you support the show, that means a lot to us. And also, just subscribing, too, is also awesome. So anyway, let's go ahead and dive into it. So let's start with this. So after the debate, I told you guys my thoughts on it. I'm of the belief that J.D. Vance won the debate when it comes to style. Tim Walz won the debate when it came to substance. And so going in, I said pretty much no matter what happens, it's going to be a wash. Coming out, I said the same thing. It's basically going to be a wash. But if there's anything that sticks, there were two moments where J.D. Vance really, really shit the splunky. One of them was on abortion. The other one was on January 6th and 2020 election denialism. And so I said, if anybody's going to remember any moments, it's going to be one or both of those moments, right? And Tim Walz, to be fair, had some moments where he did not do well at all. Like when he said he befriended school shooters. I mean, it was a slip of the tongue, but still kind of like the worst possible thing you could have a slip of the tongue on. Or when he answered the thing about being at Tiananmen Square, that was very inartful. It shows that he's honestly it's impossible for him to lie and be convincing, which is actually probably a good thing you want in a politician. You don't want somebody who's really slick and smooth and can easily lie and get away with stuff, sort of like J.D. Vance. But here are the numbers. Let's start with this one here. So CNN poll, more in touch with people like you. Tim Walz wins plus 13. Walz grew his net favorability plus 4 more than Vance. In the CNN focus group, there were 2 undecided Michigan voters who said Vance's J6 answer lost their vote. And in the NBC focus group, 5 of 6 undecided Pennsylvania voters said Walz won. I'm going to show you some of that stuff a little later on. So now let's look at this one. This is the CNN Snap poll. They have it going 51% J.D. Vance, 49% Tim Walz, having J.D. Vance slightly edge him out. I hesitate to use that terminology because I believe it's sexual in nature. Anyway, he edged him. It's getting more awkward. Anyway, all right. Then we also have, I think this is what they just referenced. Look at the reaction here from this focus group.
If you were going to say who won tonight, I would say that Tim Walz won.
I wonder, would everybody say that Walz won this debate? A show of hands. No pressure. Okay. Not sure, Claire.
So that was 5 of 6. Again, I think the big thing I keep hearing people come back to is the abortion thing or the January 6th thing and the election 2020 denial thing. That seem to be the moments that are sticking in people's heads and why they feel like Tim Walz won. Here we have a Politico Snap poll of the debate. Among independents, and again, this is a very important group because at this late date, your bases are locked in, you know who your Democrats and your Republicans are, but it's those people in the middle, man. It's the swing voters, it's the independents, it's the moderates. Walz wins independents 58-42 over Vance. Then we have this one. This is how the debate moved viewers, okay? Before the debate, Walz was plus 14 with favorability. After the debate, he skyrocketed to plus 37 in favorability. Before the debate, J.D. Vance was minus 22 in favorability. After, he skyrocketed up to minus 3. So he's still a little underwater with his favorability, whereas Walz is plus 37. Goddamn, bro. Goddamn. I like this poll in particular because it's very nuanced, but CBS asked on specific issues who won. So on abortion, Tim Walz crushed Vance 62-38. On healthcare, Walz crushed Vance 59-41. On the Middle East, they were dead tied at 50-50. I think they both gave some pretty bad answers on that front, to be honest. On the economy, Vance won 49-51. And on immigration, it was 48-52 with Vance winning there as well. So the Republicans still, I don't know what it is about the public, but they just default to just assuming Republicans have to be better on the economy and immigration. Like almost every poll shows them like that. I think there was one that had Kamala over Trump when it came to the issue of the economy. But for whatever reason, those are the ones that people, Republicans must be more serious about those. But either way, this is more stuff where Walz beat Vance than Vance beat Walz. All right, more. This one here is the CBS Snap poll. I believe so. It's 42 Vance, 41 Walz. So 1 point difference there. And I believe they say 17% were undecided. That's your breakdown right there. That's your polling data right there. So most of the Snap polls have it basically dead tie, if anything, slight edge to Vance by 1 or 2 points. When you looked at the focus groups, they actually leaned more pro-Walz. And then when you look at favorability seemed to go up more for Walz than it did for J.D. Vance. And I think the most important point is this, guys. Oftentimes on this show, we talk about the X factor, which is the vibe people give off, the energy people give off. And I don't know where it comes from. I don't know why it is like it is. But basically, when you look at that debate, J.D. Vance performed as well as he possibly could have. Tim Walz performed as poorly as he possibly could have. And even given that, you're looking at a tie. You're looking at a tie. Now, why is that? I honestly think it's because of that X factor. Because people look at J.D. Vance and he comes across as a little smug, little arrogant, little smarmy, little politician-y, used car salesman-y, and there's something just off-putting about that. Whereas Tim Walz, even though he was super nervous and really stiff at the beginning and he was sort of overcoached and he was in his head too much, even given that, in that scenario, people are still like, yeah, I kind of like him. He just seems like a nice guy. Whether or not he performs well in this debate, it's like, seems like a good guy. So, again, J.D. Vance performed as well as possible. Tim Walz performed kind of as poorly as possible. And even given that, in some polls, Walz beat Vance. But overall, like I said, going in, I said it's probably going to be a wash. Coming out, I think it's probably going to be a wash because I just don't think VP debates have that much of an impact on what's going to happen with the election. Maybe you can make an argument that Biden versus Sarah Palin in 2008 did have an impact because Sarah Palin was clearly just like incapable of being vice president. But these two demonstrated that, they played the role that they had to play. So it's not like you can't imagine either one of them as VP. You absolutely can. So I just don't think it'll have much effect. But there you go. There's your breakdown. Overall, I'd call it a wash. That's my takeaway. Hey, y'all, do me a favor and like and subscribe. It helps out big time in the algorithm. Click the bell as well for notifications when videos drop. And watch that video on screen right now. You know you want to.